This video is brought to you by Holocasa. Our tool transforms independent local real estate agents to global real estate agents. Create your own profile for free and get contacted by international investors. Sign up with the link in the description. Hello and welcome everyone to our 92nd session of Holocasa. My name is Michael and today I'm talking to Derek Bicksler from Harrisburg in Pennsylvania in the US. Derek has already more than 15 years of experience in real estate, is a real estate expert, especially in Harrisburg, is also from Harrisburg. So we have actually the right person here on the show today to present us this beautiful area. And yeah, Derek, the floor is yours. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome. This is my first episode with an international audience, so this is fun. I run my own show, as we've talked about. That's mostly local. Central PA, Central Pennsylvania supports small business. So usually I'm more of a local thing, and I'm usually on the other side interviewing the other person. So I'm fighting this urge to ask you questions rather than answer questions. But like you said, I'm in the U.S. I'm in Pennsylvania, Central Pennsylvania to be exact. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania would probably be what would come up if you Googled the area. I've been in real estate for 15 years now, like you said, almost exactly 15 years. I think I was licensed. Actually, I might be jumping the gun. I think next month is when I actually got licensed. So 14 years and like 11 months or something. But 15 years, I've been on the board of directors on our local association for multiple terms. I teach other realtors. Marketing is my thing. I love listings. My beginning of my career was all commercial for the first 6-ish years. Loved that. I started during the first boom in like 08, 06 is when I started. So I started during the boom. It was hand over fist. Banks were handing out money for vacant office buildings left and right. So it was a great time to start, good way to learn and not be struggling at the beginning, or maybe not the best way to start if it's too easy, I guess. But everything crashed after a while. So then I moved to the firm I'm at now because it's probably the best firm in my area to do both residential and commercial. And residential is always, traditionally a couple of years ahead of commercial. So I came here to sell some houses while the commercial was coming back, and slowly over time realized I kind of like selling houses more than commercial. I still do some commercial and know it like the back of my hand. As you can see, I'm not a suit and tie kind of person. So I go rock and play basketball. I know you're a surfer, so you could dig it. So I like to do those things to market and network rather than stuffy business lunches and all that kind of stuff.
I love it.
What else about myself?
I love it. Let's go step by step, and I really love your energy. I love the way you present yourself, and also especially that you are from this town, which I have to be honest, I haven't heard about before. So why don't we start and you present us a little bit about really Harrisburg? Where is it located? What is it about, and why should I also maybe regard it as a very interesting location to buy real estate?
Sure. Yeah. Well, you've heard of Hershey, right? Hershey chocolate. Okay, so we're the snack capital of the world. That's one of our claims to fame. So Hershey, Pennsylvania is here in Central PA. Is, I don't know, 15 minutes from where I'm sitting right now. So that's the biggest snack company in the world. Milton Hershey, which is a private school that is owned by them, is the richest school in the world, actually, because they actually own the trust that owns Hershey Foods. So a little tidbit there. It's a logistics hub of the East. We can reach, don't quote me on this exact stat, but I think it's 70% of the U.S. population within within a one-day drive. Whoa. So we're a huge logistics hub. We've got warehousing and logistics like crazy in our area, and that's part of what keeps the area so steady. We also have the state government. So Harrisburg, Pennsylvania is the capital of Pennsylvania. So we have the state government, which keeps things steady. Lots of military bases, huge military presence, partly because of the logistics nature of the area. The Mechanicsburg Navy Depot, which is here close to me. I think I've heard it's the largest largest land-based inland-based Navy depot in the country, or something to that effect. So it's huge. It's a huge employer. We also have a war college here, and 1, 2, 3, or 4 other military bases. We've got Lancaster, so Amish. I don't know. Do you have Amish where you are?
Well,
Yeah.
Well, Sort of like.
Or you know of them, right?
Yeah.
So we have Amish. It's a huge Amish area.
Yeah.
Lancaster, if you everybody's heard of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, that's also part of the what encompasses central PA. But huge Amish presence there. Pennsylvania Dutch, you'll hear that. A lot of German speaking people, and actually. The Lancaster area is the second biggest tourist area in Pennsylvania after Philadelphia because of the Amish tourism and Hershey Park. So Hershey also has an amusement park that's getting pretty big now, and a lot of stuff in Hershey. So lots to do around here. The second biggest tourist place is right here in central PA. And then you can get to Philly, like I said, hour and a half, 2 hours. You can get to DC in 3 hours. You can get to New York City in 3 hours. You can be to the Jersey Shore in 3 hours. So you can get to pretty much all the major East Coast stuff within 3 hours without paying for the prices. So we even have people moving here and more now, but even it happened in the past too, from DC, the same house, you can get a $500,000 house here, mansion, somewhat a McMansion with a couple acres here for 500, 600, 700,000. That in DC is going to cost you a few million probably. So people are maybe not that much, depends where exactly you are, but a lot in that DC, Virginia area. We have people kind of moving up here and then they'll just commute, or now everything's getting virtual. So we're getting a lot of people just moving here because it's still close enough to get there when you need to get to those places, but they can live here. The traffic's not as bad. The job market's great. The schools are good.
It's amazing.
Yeah, you can tell I was born and raised here.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, like, tell me, whenever you guys are publishing or launching an ETF, sounds like a good diverse portfolio. You have tourism, you have agriculture with the Amish, you have logistics, you have military, you have retail, or not only retail but even FCMG. Fast-moving consumer goods, one of the biggest brands on this planet. High education, and then proximity to the East Coast, and then even to the rest of the country. I mean, this sounds like a good investment. Concerning maybe on this one geographically, real estate, Harrisburg. Are you yourself focused locally on the downtown, or where is it that you're focusing your real estate activity on?
So the area that I cover, and mostly the area, well, actually, I was going to say the area our multi-list covers, but we just merged. I don't know if you've heard of I'm now part of Bright MLS, which is, I think, the biggest multi-list in the country that encompasses multi-state, and we merged a little while ago. But anyway, traditionally our market area is Cumberland County and Dauphin County, and some a little bit outside of that, but those are the two main counties. Within those counties, you have Harrisburg City, which is the capital, and that's kind of the biggest downtown city around here, which isn't that large. And don't quote me on the population. I don't even know, but it's not a lot. So you do have anything from the downtown city like that. Again, not big cities, but downtown living if you want that, walkable, and they're getting better at that. Lancaster City is actually really, really nice. The tons of arts and culture in Lancaster. But then you're going to see cornfields for miles and miles. As soon as you leave all those little cities, and we have a lot of coal towns too, old coal towns that are kind of getting run down, but now having a little bit of a resurgence because of all these craft breweries and these little kind of craft mom and pop shops that are getting popular. And the millennials like living downtown until COVID, which is kind of messing everything up. But I think that'll go back to that again. So we have everything from the downtown to, if you want to live next to a cornfield or a soy field, that tends to be it. Actually, behind my house, there's a grass-fed cow field, and they come right up to our fence, and my kids get to look at it. So anything you want is right there. Also, if anybody's heard of the Appalachian Trail, obviously anybody in the U.S. knows, and you probably know it's a pretty big, probably the most well-known trail in the U.S., I would think. That's where I live, is the original center point of the Appalachian Trail. Nice. I could walk out my door and be on the Appalachian Trail within less than a mile, I think. So I could walk out my door and walk Maine to Georgia, right out my door. Boiling Springs, which is where I live, is the little town where I live, is actually a quote-unquote Appalachian Trail community. So tons and tons of history in the area and jobs galore, and the standard of living is pretty good.
What's right now, and obviously COVID was in 2020 to 2021, still COVID going on. Apart from that, what has been moving the real estate market locally? What was the trending force, and where do you also maybe see the next months or years coming with respect to real estate?
Well, like I said, we're always pretty steady here, and they're always building. We're actually kind of running out of land in the better school districts, and actually, I'm not allowed to talk about which school districts are better than others, but we are running out of land in our area. And like I said, we have the people from DC or Virginia or these kind of more expensive areas that sometimes move to Central PA for jobs and things. The state government as things and as logistics, Amazon's growing, online things are growing, everything having to do with warehousing is growing. So that's just booming in our area as well. So there are always jobs here. There's a shortage of inventory, like everywhere else. I guess it's no different in that respect. But we do have a shortage. I'll go over a little bit of numbers here. I'm not a big numbers guy because I just kind of know how it's going, but I did pull some numbers and it's crazy. One statistic I'll just rattle off to you right now. So in Cumberland County, the average 5-year average for January active listings is almost 800, 796. This January we had 260.
Wow.
Last year we had 506. This year we have 260. So we're half of last year as far as active listings in January in Cumberland County. Now, Cumberland County tends to be a little bit more of the rural suburban county. There's this river that if anybody's looking in Central PA, once you start looking here, you're going to know the Susquehanna River really quick. And Dauphin County is on the one side, which is the more urban kind of thing. And Cumberland County is on the other side, a little bit more suburban. Cumberland County in recent history, tends to do a little bit better on appreciation and taxes and school districts and those kind of things. But Dauphin County is no slouch either, and that's where Hershey and all that stuff is. So in Cumberland County, we had a 15% increase in median sold price, and in Dauphin County, we only had a 2.9%. Wow. So that's more in line, maybe a 1.5 to 2.5 per year. But in Cumberland County, 15%, which is pretty crazy to think that it went up that much. I mean, the average sold price I got here, Cumberland last year, 260 this year. So if you bought something, you could have made 30 grand on a house if you just bought it last year and sold it right now. And the rents are the same way. If people are thinking about investing, and I know single family homes are a huge thing that people are investing in these days. And even the big funds are now, they're buying, which makes the prices go up and we can't find any flips. But the rents are going crazy right now too.
What's the interest rate right now? If range, obviously, and I know it always depends on the credibility, but more or less, what's the interest rate if I'm asking for a mortgage if I go to a bank in the US right now or in Pennsylvania?
2 to 4.
Okay.
2 to 5, depending on if it's conventional, how many years, what kind of loan it is. But I mean, they just went up a little bit, but it's not. Money's still cheap for sure.
Then the next question is, just as a quick disclosure, in Europe, it's like, I think it's like kind of, it's not forbidden, but no one really does like flipping as much as you guys do in the US because of high tax brackets, which you have within, I think like the first 10 years or something, where you have to pay like of the proceeds, I think 40%, if I'm not mistaken. So no one really, like the flipping business is not really a business. However, I know from, I don't know, TV shows or talking to people that like this flipping business in the US is huge. Can you maybe give me like now taking the advantage of talking to an expert, give me a quick overview on not only how it works, but also on the transaction costs of a house, because I also have to account in Germany, if I buy an apartment, I normally have to account like for, let's say, couple of thousand of transaction costs for, stamp duty, lawyer, what have you, and then plus real estate fees, which then in the end account for in total maybe 10% of transaction costs. And then I have the down payment, and then I also have, if I want to sell it again, I have to pay more or less like a fat penalty if I don't have it in cash to the bank as an interest on the because I just want to like stop the mortgage earlier. I don't know the exact term in English. Can you give me like an overview of how the situation right now there is in Pennsylvania?
Sure. Yeah. So on the buy side, in general, you're probably going to spend 1% on transfer tax. Traditionally, there's 2% transfer tax that's taken by the state and the local government. Traditionally, that's split in half by the seller and the buyer. So 1% right there, and then another, say 1% in notary, recording fees, deed prep, or whatever the standard stuff is. So not too much on the buy side. And that's outside of the down payments and all the loan fees and all that, obviously. So a couple percent on the buy side. Then you're going to have the cost of renovations, obviously, which could be rolled into the mortgage or could not. You could have multiple sources of financing. You could have a bridge loan or an interest-only loan is kind of what you were talking about. So you're going to have some payments for a few months while you're fixing the place up, the outlay of cash. And then when you sell, let's assume you're using an agent, because I'm a real estate agent and I hope you use an agent to sell it. And the smart ones do, or they themselves are the flipper. But let's assume that you're using an agent. I usually tell people take about 8% off to account for the commission, the transfer tax again, and any other random fees that are associated with it. And then you're going to have real estate tax prorations, which could be whatever they are. So on the front end, a couple percent outside of all the other stuff that could be a moving target. And then on the selling side, 8%, and you could get rid of 5 or 6% of that if you did it yourself without an agent.
Okay, but me, to be honest, talking to agents always, like the advice is always working with an agent, not because those are agents and trying to sell their services, but I assume, or what I right now learn is there's so many nitty-gritty details which you just have to know, and which you also, like, as an expert, local expert, only know. It's definitely worth it talking to an expert and having him deal like with all the paperwork, with all the things, because in the end you might pay much more because you did not account for something, you did not see something, you were not aware of a certain regulation and stuff. What's your opinion on it? Do you think that, yes, absolutely work with an agent, but also there may be gearing towards your services, not only like talking about the transaction itself, but where would you see like really comes like the good value in with respect to a good agent, dealing with the client, making sure that everything runs smoothly on both sides, seller's side, but also buyer's side?
Yeah, I'll start with the seller side. I just put a listing on the market today, and I don't think they're going to be watching this, so I can talk a little bit freely, or maybe they will because I'll share it. But so they never quite. It's all the little things really that they don't clean up quite as good as you would think. That they don't put the things away that they should. What was your original question? I just got off my.
No, totally. In the end, where do you really feel is the differentiation of having an agent and having not having an agent? And then also what are examples where you say, hey, like if these people wouldn't have had an agent in the first place, they would have had problems massively afterwards, years after the purchase, for example.
So right now, especially important because people love to sell their house privately. I talk to people all the time that I want to sell my house, but I don't feel like cleaning it up. And my friend said they'll buy it and they want to give me this price, and I think that's okay. Well, you're going to get $20,000 more than that if you put it on the market.
Mm-hmm.
So talking people into putting it on the market and really getting them. I mean, these days, it could mean tens of thousands of dollars for, an average, a house of 200 could go for 220 if you put it on the market the right way and you clean it up, like I was saying, and take your agent's advice. Yeah. A lot of times they even when you are really hard about it and say, clean it up, this really does mean it means $10,000. Just, vacuum, put this stuff away, just do the little things. So a lot of it is really just pushing them to do the things that we know that you need to do to sell the house. If you were selling your car, you're not just going to leave the McDonald's bag sitting on the floor. You're going to at least put the trash away. You're going to wipe down the car. You're going to clean the outside and make it look nice. And most people don't take that care or don't think for some reason that they need to do it. But then when they go to look at houses, obviously they want that house to be perfect and everything. So we help them see it through the other eyes sometimes when they just can't see it from the other side. And I say, okay, well, let's go outside and let's walk in your front door and pretend like you've never been here before. What catches your eye when you walk in here? And people just don't take the time to do that. So helping people button it up. And these days, like I said, in some other times, in some other markets, it might not mean the difference between tens of thousands of dollars. But right now, having a crappy picture to put on the internet or a good picture could mean more people looking at it and literally tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, people are paying, and they're overpaying out of pocket that. Not even, it'll still appraise at that 200 and they're going to give you 20 grand just because there are no houses for sale. So there's a lot of that. And there are agents out there. That's kind of a lead generation thing for some agents. They say, I've got this list of buyers who want houses. And then they go to the seller people and say, I can sell it right now. You don't even have to, you can skip all the muss and the fuss and I'll put you together. And that agent's getting both sides of the transaction as a dual agent, getting both sides of the commission. They don't have to split it. So that's why these agents want to do it. But it is totally, totally, totally out of the best interest of sellers right now. Unless it really is, you really are a hoarder and you just really don't want to mess with anything. Even that house though, right now, you put it on the market as crappy as it is right now. So, helping people not trip over themselves is a lot of it on the selling side. Anyway, the buyer side, that's a whole different thing.
Well, staying with the seller side for a sec, let's say, okay, like services are definitely, making them aware of the necessity of maybe, like refurbishing even before selling, maybe cleaning it up, maybe doing some fixes, maybe reinvesting a little bit even, not only time, but also maybe a little bit of money, because it will increase the value, I don't know, fivefold by the initial investment. Are you really hands-on sometimes on this one, as in, oh, hey, I have this person, this is I have this relationship, we can hire this service, we can do this and this and this. Are you really as much involved, or are you just like, hey, but call me back when you're done, and then I'm going to market the house only in a proper state?
Yeah, that's the other thing. The agent's it's a good agent. They're going to do most of the stuff for you, or they're going to hire somebody, or they're going to give you the resources to get it done easily. So yeah, I do everything. It depends on the listing, but I mean, my photos are professional photos. That's something that most homeowners are not going to do if they're selling it on Zillow themselves or something. They're just going to take some crappy cell phone pictures, which obviously doesn't help anything. So yeah, anywhere from hiring a stager. So if I work with a builder and it's a big model home, average price here is 200,000. So if it's a model home, 5-7, I have one right now that's a $700,000 model home. We're gonna probably stage that one because it's worth spending the money, renting furniture, getting that all in there. So anything from that level down to, I typically go. So the professionals doing the photos, I go at least an hour before, because without fail, the seller did not declutter and clean up as much as we've talked about. So I've learned that we have an initial consultation. I say, put this away, do this, fix this, paint this, replace this carpet, do whatever. Then I come back again once they say they've done everything. And then I give more tips and say, get rid of more, do this, do this. And then I still need to get there before the photos and put away that rug or the dog bowl that you didn't put away, and just make it perfect for the pictures. So yeah, you'll see me scrambling around. Depends on the listing again, but yeah.
Nice. Have you done 360 in apartment or in room? What is it, like recordings? So that you have like a 3D overview. And what's your opinion about it? Is it a trend? Will it definitely will this be the future and more or less like the requirement? And also the same question goes for drones. I would be interested on the tech side from your perspective.
Yeah, all the tech, you got to be up on your tech game these days. Obviously, when somebody goes to look at a house these days, it's almost like the second showing. They don't have to, and the selling season has even gone away because of the tech. It used to be you got to wait till it's light at night, until the spring when the days are long. You have lots of daylight. You have to drive around and look for signs. You have to look in this book and then in the paper to find houses. But the selling season has gone away because of the tech. So when they go actually see something, it's almost like a second showing. So that would mean that the first showing is what they're seeing online. So you better be sure that those pictures are good and by a professional, or at least well taken by yourself. A video is always good. If nothing else, you want to please the algorithms. I'm sure Zillow and Realtor.com and all the other IDX feeds and websites, they want a video on there. They want the description filled out. They want 25 or more photos. They want all these things. If there's a slot to put a 360 tour or a 360 photo in there, they want that. And as an agent, that's how you sell yourself. Even if you don't think right now, you don't even need all that to sell a house. Frankly, you could probably put one good of the front of the house, one good picture of the front of the house, and it would sell for over asking price right now. But in a different market, you need to sell the house and you need to sell yourself, because other sellers are watching and seeing how you market listings. So it's important in that respect too. But yeah, increasingly you got to have a video tour and maybe a Matterport, if you've heard of that, whereas you can walk through and look around the room and click to move through the room. All that stuff's becoming pretty standard, especially for the higher price listings. You got to do it, or you're not doing it right.
You're also very savvy on the marketing side, not only as a real estate agent, but also very, very strong on marketing. There any tips, any best practices for you for Pennsylvania, which really works very well on getting a lot of leads? What's your best practice there?
So Facebook, Instagram ads are my jam, and I love those. I've always done those. Recently, though, I've kind of switched, and I do digital marketing for small businesses around here as well, to Google My Business. And do you have that where you are?
Yeah. Yes, because the thing is like,
It's based.
you are referring to the new one, because Google recently launched a new one, Google My Places, or Google, like you have like Google My Business. That's for sure, we have that, and then I think like right now there's this new one. What is it called?
Local services ads.
Yeah, exactly. I think we don't really have that yet, I think.
Yeah, so that for sure, at least in most places, anywhere that has Google, probably if it offers it, I highly recommend it. So the Google My Business, number one, if you, whatever industry you're in, see who's beating you and just start getting more reviews and add in pictures and stuff, you will pop. I got a call. I'm going to see somebody's house tomorrow that found me on Google. So Google My Business, and that's free, organic. You just got to do work, obviously, to fill it out and maximize it. But then, as you mentioned, the Google local service ads, I think is what they're called. It's kind of tied to your Google My Business and kind of tied to Google Ads. But I also do Google Ads, and it's not the same interface, and it kind of, you have to apply, you have to upload your license. They do a background check. You have to have reviews on your Google My Business already. So there is some checking. You have to upload your insurance papers. There's some verification. And then when you turn on the ad, you will get phone calls. So I actually had to turn mine off, because obviously the algorithm is watching you. And if phone calls come through and you don't answer them, it's not going to like that. So I had to actually turn it off and come up with some system and make sure I can answer it every time. So I put it on the minimum just to test it for $5 a day, and I was getting at least a call or a couple calls a day off.
Wow. And this is on top of the section. So that's a search query you put in, and then in the end you're gonna get you're being displayed on top, like with the other pages.
I've actually never even seen it from like how it's displayed to the person, so I don't even know actually. But it results in calls for the most part, I think, for most businesses. And it's not available to every business type. When you go to, if you Google local services ads and you go to do it, there's, I don't know, maybe 10 different services you can do. Because I was trying to do it for a print company client of mine, and that's not really a category. But it must come up in some way where there's like a big call button and they're really trying to get people to call, I think.
Sounds like quite aggressive towards Thumbtack and maybe even Zillow. Google launching this one. Super curious on how that plays out.
Yeah, and it's new. Obviously, if you jump in new, it's once everybody around here starts knowing about it, I'm sure I'm not going to get 2 leads for $5.
Another reason to just bump it up. Okay, only focus on this one, for the first 6 months. And on the coming back to the initial question, and on the buyer's side, so what are their tasks where you say, first of all, normally I think the buyer doesn't pay the commission, so there's no real reason not to have a real estate agent. But then also obviously you're gonna get paid or charged with a certain percentage of the seller's agent, correct? And therefore, like, you have an incentive to do a proper job, and you are servicing the client properly, obviously.
Yeah, totally. So it's a no-brainer to have a buyer's agent. Like you said, the commission is paid by the seller. You get half of that commission. Although just because you're getting paid by them, your fiduciary responsibility and your representation lies with the buyer. So it's a no-brainer. There is this thing, I don't know if you guys have it there, where everybody now in the US, at least in my market, but I think everywhere, charges a transaction fee or an admin fee.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what happened is, back in the day, real estate companies, before the internet and everything, the broker would have a building and people walked into the broker's office, and then he would give business out to agents, and they took a big percentage of it because that broker was giving. That's where but now that's not the thing. We all work for ourselves. No one's handing me leads. No one's walking in the door. It's gone from a completely different model to where most places are like 100% split or very, very high splits, to where the brokers, it's not really a good business model. You make money off of having a loan division and a title company and a settlement company. So they started charging these transaction fees. So like every transaction, you have to give them whatever their split is of the commission, but then also a lot of ours are $200-ish. So the agents are going to charge. So on the selling side, they're going to charge the commission plus $500 admin fee, transaction fee, whatever they're calling it. It's bullshit. And that's one of my unique selling propositions. I don't charge them because I believe they're bullshit. And actually I won't get into it, but you can't do it. And on the settlement sheet, you got to wrap them in one, or else you'll get in trouble. So they charge that on top of it, $200, and then the agent can charge whatever they want and keep the difference. So most people on the buy side will be free except for that admin transaction fee, which is usually anywhere from $200 to, some people charge like $1,000, which is nuts. And I can't believe people go with it, but I don't charge anything. My buyers pay absolutely nothing, but at the most, usually buyers pay like $500 or so in our market.
Yeah. Okay.
And then right now, as far as service goes, you're not buying a house without an agent right now. You got to make 10 offers, know exactly how to do it to win the house right now. So you don't really have to sell yourself these days to be a buyer's agent.
Okay. In the end, I think what is the most important thing? Qualify the buyer is a lot of things. Is one thing which I hear the most, like making sure or guiding the buyer towards the thing he really likes, he really wants to buy. Why does he want to buy? And there, like those probing questions. How do you approach this first state when you're starting to interact with the potential buyer?
Yeah. So when I first meet with somebody, and I generally do this with networking in general. When I have coffee with somebody, I don't even ask them what they do or tell me what you do or a business. I'm asking, what do you do for fun and your hobbies? I'm more just trying to connect with them and be friends with them. And then we'll go look at some houses. Obviously, I take it much more serious than that. But I look at it as I'm trying to make a friend and then help this friend out the right way that I know how. So that's how I look at it, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's nice. I like it. Now, one quick question concerning the taxes. You mentioned that before, that yes, there's some preferable taxes in Pennsylvania and also in Harrisburg. How much is the tax on an annual base on my asset value in real estate? which I can, or yeah, which I can expect there. And also, I guess it's also depending on the property type, maybe also the location, correct?
Yeah, you're gonna look at a range from the highest real estate tax area, say maybe 3%, like 6 grand on a $200,000 house. So that'd be
Okay.
what, 3%, and then down to like 2 grand on a $2,000 house, maybe even as low as maybe like 1,500 for a $200,000 house. So there, it could be a pretty big swing. Um, yeah, and that's something that agents, nobody ever thinks about, but agents can help out, obviously. And if somebody's, it's mostly dictated by the school district because that's the highest. The school district takes the most of the taxes. So it's mostly, so if somebody doesn't need to be in a certain school district, that's one of the first things as a buyer agent I'm saying is, well, why are you looking here? Well, that's 6,000, that's $500 a month. Or you could buy over here and have an extra $400 a month to put towards the house itself, or buy a boat or a car, or put away for later, or invest or whatever. So that's something an agent can help with too, especially here. I think other areas may not have as much of a fluctuation in little pockets, but here we have lots of little pockets, and right here could be $5,000 taxes, and right here could be half of that. So
Wow.
that's something that agents know pretty much off the top of our head. We have one of the main townships right here close to us is the cheapest tax area in PA. So we have a lot of people moving there.
Well, however, you also obviously have like a negative correlation with rent and house prices. That's how I know it from Switzerland. Like, you know, obviously, yeah, you have like more or less like sometimes it even it evens out. One quick question concerning you just mentioned that one, like some hot or some locations where you see like high appreciation, high potential. Going a little bit into detail on the districts, like certain districts which are super hot right now, which are interesting, where you would say, okay, you know, if you had like, I don't know, 200,000, maybe 500,000, maybe 100,000, where would you put your money right now as an area?
Yeah. Anywhere in Central PA is pretty good. The hottest and the most appreciation has been in Mechanicsburg. That's actually where I grew up and went to high school, so I like it there. But crazy, like that figure of 15% in Cumberland County. Mechanicsburg is in Cumberland County. I think Mechanicsburg specifically was more like 30%. So it was the highest appreciation of all the other ones. The school districts are super strong. That cheapest tax area that I talked about is a Mechanicsburg address. Two of the probably the best rated schools there. Tons of all the international transplants. We've got a lot of Deloitte and Touche. I don't know if you've ever heard of that company. It's probably one of the biggest consulting firms around here.
Sure.
They employ a ton of people here, and a lot of people from India move here to work there, and they all live in Mechanicsburg in Cumberland Valley School District, if anybody cares that granularly. Cumberland Valley School District and Mechanicsburg School District are probably the most sought after areas, but anywhere in PA is pretty darn good. But those are also the lowest taxes areas. And the rents went from, I just heard, so a 3-story townhouse, which is kind of like the garage on the first floor, no basement, and then living area, and then bedrooms in Cumberland Valley School District used to be $1,700 a month. I just heard a girl in my sales meeting say she was listing one for $2,100 a month. Wow. So in the last 12 months or so, it went up. What's that? 25%?
That's a lot. On the other spectrum, affordable housing. I talked to one person, very interesting, from Illinois, and I think she was flipping and buying a lot of houses for like between 5 to 20K. I know we're not in the range right now there in Pennsylvania, that you have like a totally different price scale, but is there something which you also sometimes see, which you deal with? Okay, you know, maybe the return on investment on this spectrum is even more attractive. You might have some noise on a different level when dealing with the tenants, maybe sometimes when having transaction costs or transactions or what have you. Is that even a topic there, or is that too high end in general?
Yeah, so you can, it's like any other area. You can Usually when people get into investing, they get into like in Harrisburg City, you could find something for that 5, 10, 20, 40,000. I think you need to spend maybe 30 or 40 in the city at least if you want something that's kind of ready to go.
Yeah.
If you get in that 5, 10, that's pretty much you can get in it, but it's going to need some kind of work. But you could get in cheap. People start with that like anywhere else. You buy a few of those in the city and then you sell them off and buy, and then you start working your way out of the city to the suburbs because the city's also very high taxes. But that's where the cheap stuff is. And like you said, the higher cash flow, but with the higher cash flow comes a little bit more work. So you start out with what you can do. We do have a lot of wholesalers. I think that's the case everywhere, though. Even investments here are those are overpriced. I mean, frankly, it's not the time to buy because
Well,
it's everything's crazy.
help me out with the term wholesaling. I haven't understood that yet. What does that exactly mean?
So wholesaling basically is I go out and I find a deal. However, I find it mailers, signs by the road, whatever. I find a hoarder who wants to sell their house really cheap. I put it under contract for 20 grand. I don't want to flip it or do any of the work. I just want to find the deals. I go sell it to the dude that actually wants to flip it for. So what I say, I buy for 40, I sell it to them for 50, I make my 10 grand and I do nothing. So that's, you're
Okay,
just
it's
in
like,
between.
okay, I got it. It's like seriously like talking about e-commerce, wholesale, sales to retail, kind of. Okay, so you're just the like you're kind of the reseller to the retail. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, they just
Okay.
find the deals, and some of them will also flip them, but most serious wholesalers are just they're wholesaling.
Okay, so that's interesting. So
And
as
those are crazy though, because here we have so if you don't pay your taxes, it could go to a sheriff's sale or a tax sale or whatever. I just saw somebody a couple days ago, a big flipper wholesaler. He does all of it here, a huge, does a ton of it. He posted the one he would have paid 40 grand for it. At auction, it went up to 120. So almost up to retail for the most part. So I don't know how anybody could even flip it at that. They're going to paint it and do almost nothing to it and then try to get 140 out of it or something. So even investments and trying to flip, everybody and their mom's trying to do it.
um, you're more or less, from what I'm getting, is that right now real estate market is very hot. It's crazy. There's not a lot of supply. Everyone is buying houses, and is that normal? Is that still? I mean, you have to know. Yesterday, I watched a movie, The Big Short, about the housing bubble, and maybe I'm a little bit sensitive today because I watched it yesterday, and now you're telling me that. So is that does the trend just go on, or where are we at the right now? Are you talking sometimes to other peers? What's your opinion there?
It's I think it's really hard to even say because before now there's so many regulations in place. So before they were handing out money to everybody and the values were crazy, but they weren't checking credit. They weren't doing anything. It was just everybody's making money and then everybody defaulted and everything. So now it's a little bit different. People are different with money, so they care a little bit more. But also the government's not going to let it happen. So there's a lot of factors that won't let it crash like it did before. So if people are waiting for like it's at the max and it's going to crash at some point, I'm kind of thinking that way as well. There's going to be some correction, quote unquote, but it will never be a crash, quote unquote, like there was before because systems are in place now for that to never ever happen again. Just like with COVID, this is a whole different topic, but money's made up really. They'll make up money and we'll all move on. So, there won't be a crash like before, but there should be a correction at some point because it can't just keep going up. And the prices tomorrow. So I'll just add this and then
No,
I'll
it's
stop
fine.
blabbing. Buyers right now are saying, well, I don't want to compete for this house. I don't want to pay 20 grand over asking price or whatever. But tomorrow's price, so you wait, tomorrow's prices are going to be based on today's sale price. So you're not even paying over appraisal price tomorrow. You're paying 220 for that 200 house because the last one just sold at 220, but you might have been able to get it for 200 or 210 had you just bit the bullet. So it and for buyer, you got to make 10 offers before your buyer gets one. And sometimes they just give up and don't do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You just mentioned one term concerning the appraisal. You also have the local municipality making sure, or what is it like? You have the book which more or less states the value of the house, while you have the market value, and then you have sometimes also some challenges concerning what the municipality says and what the market price is, and there's sometimes some misalignment which also raises or creates some friction and some problems.
Yeah. So, and this is a common thing that nobody knows about really. The difference between the municipal assessment and the appraised value. So the assessment is an assessment of the value, but they don't walk through the home. It's just somebody driving past, making sure the place is standing there, and then they take the average per square foot sale price or whatever, and then they assign a value to every home in the municipality, and then that's what they base the real estate taxes on. So a lot of people will look up, well, on my real estate tax bill, it says my house is worth 200,000. But then I look it up and actually your house is worth 150,000, or in this case, it's less. In that case, you would want to appeal your taxes, which you can do, and get them corrected to the 150, the actual market value, which you can do. If the assessed value is above market value, or below market value, let it be. You're paying less taxes than you should. So it is a little bit different, and they only do the assessments every 5-10 years. Depends when they have money to do it. So it's not the value of the house, but your taxes are based on it.
Okay, I understand. Okay. I'm really curious on how this market evolves, because from somewhere the money has to come, and the money, you can just say now in Pennsylvania, well, all the money comes from the East Coast, like everyone is moving out, and here we go. And I'm just hoping that everything will end up okayish, but it definitely looks or sounds like a little bit inflated, the prices, the way you describe it, and let's hope that we will not have another 2008. That would be definitely horrible.
Unless you have cash to spend, then let's bring it on. Let's go buy some stuff.
Absolutely. Derek, I don't have any questions anymore. I think it was freakingly amazing, and you gave me a lot of insights and a lot of value. From your side, any final thoughts and final comments you would like to share?
I don't know, just reach out to me if you're thinking about investing in Central PA, or if you're taking a trip. If you're not in Central PA and you take a trip here, I'll take you on a rock climbing adventure you will love. I'm a former rock climbing gym owner, so that's what I love. And like I said, I like to get to know people and have fun with them and make them my friends. So even if you call me from another country, I'll probably talk to you about something other than real estate. Awesome. And then say, oh shoot, we're supposed to talk about an investment or something, right? So please reach out to me, and I like to help. I'm all about giving value. I give away information for free all the time, as you know. As a realtor, that's what we do. So yeah, anything anybody needs.
Amazing. I'm super afraid of height. So even though I love the mountains and I go a lot of trail running, I'm super scared. As soon as it goes a little bit too steep, I'm like, okay, that was it. I have to return again. So, but happy to talk about other topics. How can people reach out to you?
Text is probably the easiest way, which in the US is, I don't even know how international, whatever. It's 717-571-4994. Or just Google me, Derek Bicksler. I'm a marketer, so if you don't find me, I'm doing something wrong. Derek Bicksler, and agentderek.com is my website. Agentderek.com, like it sounds, is my website. So yeah, hit me up anytime, and I'll try to answer my phone if you call, although my phone's been public for 15 years now. Perfect. So I really, it's spam constantly. So
I'll put into the show notes. So it's plus 001, and then people will definitely will reach out to you. Derek, thank you so much for your time. I know you have to run to your rock climbing for tonight. It's I wish you all success with it. Please don't fall and yeah, but it seems you're very good at it, so I'm not afraid.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And like I said, this is new to me. So, and Joseph is going to be on your show, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was talking to him. He's like, I'm gonna be on his show. So he's close to me, obviously. So have fun with him if you didn't do it already.
Perfect. Will do. No, no, we haven't done it yet. Okay. Thank you so much. And yeah, Derek, have a nice afternoon. And yeah, talk soon.
Thanks. See ya.
Bye.